Hey, it's Jack Hicks with another free voiceover lesson. That's right, free. I'm giving away free voiceover lessons. Why? First of all, why would I do it? Well, the first reason is when I started doing voiceovers, people helped me. Really good people, people that were in the business for a long time, helped me get good at being a voiceover artist. They were willing to share their knowledge with me without any hesitation for free, just because I knew them. So I always said that when I get into the voiceover business, I am going to do the same thing. I'm going to help people do it. So that's one reason. Another reason is when you teach somebody something, it makes you better at what you do. So that's part of the reason too. And then the other reason, number three, is maybe on the offhand chance, I might get a little extra voiceover work somehow out of the whole thing. So those are my three reasons. Let's get to it. Last week we covered, should you getting into the voiceover business, and a couple of things I recommended was your first assignment, read out loud every day for half hour a day. Start doing that every day, every morning, or probably in the morning. That's when I do it. Read out loud for a half hour a day. Read stuff you like, the newspaper, a magazine article, a book, whatever it is, the Bible, whatever you like to read. The only thing about the Bible, I think I might stick with conversational language, like conversational English, like what we use on an everyday common basis. So that might be one reason not to read the Bible. But at the same time, it's all good. Just read what you're interested in and try to make it sound conversational. So here's a little thing that I figured out a long time ago. I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh on the radio all the time. And whether you're a fan of Rush's or not, it doesn't really matter. All that really matters is he was a very good broadcaster. And why is that? I'll tell you exactly what his real talent was. Well, one of his real talents, a big talent that's kind of hard to get. Not everybody can do this. And that is, I was listening to him one day and he stumbled on a word, Rush Limbaugh. And the word was a word that you wouldn't stumble on. Now I do that. It's a word that you wouldn't stumble on in a normal conversation. And he mispronounced the word in such a way that the only way you could ever mispronounce that word, which I can't remember exactly what it is, the only way you could mispronounce it is if you were reading it. And he was reading it. So what he would do, Rush Limbaugh, he would, at the beginning of a show every day, he would come on and he would do like an ad lib. He'd do like a monologue, about what was going on in the world and some of his personal opinions about the Clintons or whatever he was, going on about. But it sounded like he was just talking off the top of his head. Boy, that Bill Clinton is just a nutcase, huh? Did you hear what he's done now? It just sounds like he's just talking off the top of his head, until I realized that that was all planned out and he was reading it. He typed all that stuff out and he read it every day, and he had the skill, which is a skill that you want to develop, to be able to read and make it sound like you're talking. So that's one of Rush's big talents. And so when you practice your half-hour reading every day, don't try to make it sound like a big announcer. Don't try to make it sound like you think a voiceover person should sound like. Try to make it sound like you're just reading it and talking to somebody. So we talked about that last week a little bit as your assignment, and then we went over the pros and cons of being in the voiceover business. Some of the cons currently are it's kind of hard to get started with an agent and that sort of stuff, and a lot of things, because there's so many people that got into the business now, a lot of beginners, a lot of people when the COVID thing started happening, they were like, I'm going to do what I've always wanted to do. I'm going to become a voice artist. And they buy their $200 Rode mic, they buy a $500 interface, plug it into their computer, put some blankets up in a closet or wherever they are, and away they go, and they're now a voice artist. The problem with that thing is that a lot of these people aren't very good. Their skills aren't to the level of where they should actually be hanging out their shingle quite yet. And sometimes you audition for a job as a seasoned voiceover artist, and sometimes you don't even get heard. You get buried, you're number 50 and you never get heard. And meanwhile, they're, oh God, next, I can't take any longer. They're listening to people that really shouldn't be auditioning for a job. So the system is kind of clogged up right now, which has also driven rates down a little bit. So I think most voice artists will say that they're probably making a little bit less money than they were before, except for those on the very top tier, the guys doing all the the big national stuff, the Super Bowl stuff like that, I don't think they really got hurt. You watch the Super Bowl and it's sold out and there's commercials on there. Mark Ryder, a guy who is a very good voice artist, I was watching the Super Bowl and I think I heard 3 out of 8 commercials in a commercial break that he did. That's big stuff. So the cons, that would be a con. The other con for me is it gets a little bit lonely sometimes. I worked in radio for a long time, and I get a little bit lonely. I'm here working by myself every day, and sometimes I think that I miss the radio days. I miss the interactions. I miss the groupies on the request line. I miss people calling, people running into people. I still run into people that used to listen to me, but I mean it's not the same. I miss the people I work with. All that sort of stuff. So that was that. But financially, I'm doing a lot better, and I'm enjoying the work as much. But there's a few cons. I'm not out in the world quite as much as I once was. So that would be a con as well, I would say, in the voiceover business. The pros are to becoming a voice artist are you can make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money. You can make $500,000 a year at the top, getting close to the top level. The top level above that is probably the movie actors that do voiceovers, and they get paid, could be $1 million a commercial. Morgan Freeman and those kind of guys, when they do a commercial, they get paid a lot of money for doing that. And it's union, they get residuals and stuff like that. And one more con to getting into the voiceover business is it takes longer to ramp up to get where you're actually doing work and making money and good at it than you probably think. A lot of people in radio think, I'll just get into voiceover and I can just start doing it. And you can, but a lot of those guys often don't make very much money at it because they don't have the right sound. They haven't put the work in. They just figured, I've done radio for 25 years and I can do this. So that's not necessarily true. Sometimes it is, but often they have to make adjustments because radio announcers have a certain cliched kind of sound. They say things a certain way. They talk with big voices a lot of times, or they talk with a lot of energy. They have a little bit of pukiness going on, or they emphasize weird word patterns and stuff. You can get a burger and fries for only $5.99. Yes, you can get a burger and fries for only $4.99. People don't talk. You do talk like that, and the voiceover doctor once told me, he goes, I read a commercial for him the first time I worked with him as a teacher, and I get done with it. He goes, "Do you ever talk to anybody like that in real life?" No. The answer, no, I don't. So you have to learn how to be conversational. Conversational is a big word. Guy next door is you want that kind of. Generally speaking, not always. But there's no hard and fast rules, but there's some principles that seem to stick no matter what. Let me just read something for you really quick, and I'll give you an example, kind of. Okay, here is a radio announcer style of read. A calorie is a calorie, whether the source is birthday cake or broccoli. Now, as if I'm talking to a friend, hey Jim, look. A calorie is a calorie, whether the source is birthday cake or broccoli. Well, I didn't do that very good, but, hey, Jim, a calorie is a calorie. It doesn't matter whether the source is birthday cake or broccoli. I don't know if that's a great example. I don't know if I'd send that off in an audition or not, but nonetheless, you kind of get the idea. That's the goal to strive for. So today in lesson number 2 here, so we went over the stuff we did last week. You're now reading a half hour a day, hopefully. So lesson number 2 here today, I'd like to go through what I learned in broadcasting school. And you're thinking, well, you just told me don't be a radio announcer. That's true. But a lot of the stuff that they taught in broadcasting school still applies. And the reason they don't want announcers is over the years, over time, broadcasters pick up bad habits. For example, when I was working in radio, and I worked in the days when they were sold, the radio station was sold out. It was commercial, wall-to-wall commercials, it was just nonstop. And as an announcer, you get off the air, and your production stack I do 20 commercials after I got off the air, and the approach at a radio station for producing commercials is not nearly as professional as it is in the voiceover world. In fact, usually what it was a stack of commercials. Let's say a 30-second commercial would be 45 seconds worth of copy, and you had to fit it in. So you had to read it really fast. And you didn't have a lot of time because, Tom or somebody else, sorry, Tom, I'm not picking on you, is standing outside the room waiting to get in, looking through the window at you, let's go. So here you are, you don't care how good it sounds, as long as you're not stumbling, and as long as you get it into 30 seconds, that's all that really mattered at that point. So you do that for 25 years, and you start to pick up some pretty bad habits. And sometimes it's hard to get rid of that stuff, even after practicing and taking lessons and stuff. So coming from a radio background for people, even with your experience, there's a ramp-up time, that takes a little bit of time to get going. No matter who you are, even if you're a total beginner, you have an advantage in that you don't have those bad habits, but you don't have any habits except for, maybe what you've picked up along the way, and you got to learn how to do it, believe it or not. You got to put the practice in. You probably have to take some lessons. So hopefully these lessons will help you decide whether it's worth it to take it to the next step, the next level, and actually follow through and take those lessons. So before I get into what I learned in radio school, I just want to say too, I wrote a book called 99 Tips to Voiceover Excellence. It's on Amazon. Nobody really bought it. I think I sold like 20 copies or something. But it's good advice. And so these lessons are going to be based on that book. You don't have to buy the book. I'm giving it all away for free. 99 tips. But we'll do that. We'll start with that next week. Today, I just want to start with some tips I learned in radio school and still apply today. Now, the other thing too is if you are a radio announcer getting into the business, and you're making the transition, what is it like? What do I compare it to? I compare it to a musician, let's say a guitar player, who is going to switch instruments to piano. Okay, so that person, having played music for a long time, probably knows how to read music and understands music theory, knows how to keep time, and has listened to a lot of music over the years. That person has a head start on somebody who's never played the piano before in their life. But it's not, you don't just walk over to the piano and start playing. They're going to have to study. Even if they don't take lessons, they're going to have to figure it out. It's kind of like that, sort of. You're still in the music business, but you're playing a different instrument. So you've got that going for you. That's a little bit of a head start. And then I would also say that you have to lose the habits. That's a difficult thing. You have to lose the boomy voice. Sometimes you have to just trust yourself and not put very much into it. Radio announcers have a tendency to put too much into it. I didn't do enough. And it's like, well, when you talk to somebody in real life, do you worry about how much you do? No, you just do. You just communicate. So there's that. A pro that a radio announcer would have going for them would be, you probably know how to edit audio. You probably know how to run the software to record audio. You know how to work a microphone. You know how to work headphones. And, the technical part of it you probably know pretty good, to some extent. Mostly, I would say. And you probably, you can read okay. Your voice is probably okay. Although voice is overrated when it comes to voiceover, because it's kind of like, somebody's like, well, somebody said I should get into voiceover because I have a great voice. And it's like, well, okay. That's like somebody saying you should get into acting because you're good looking. Maybe. How many times have you heard this cliche, though? Is she a good actress? She's great as long as she doesn't say anything. What does that tell you? A good voice is kind of equivalent to a really good-looking actor. Brad Pitt, if he weren't as good-looking as he was, he'd still be a great actor. He knows how to act, That will carry him further than his looks. But the voice is an important part, too. So you've got that going for you. You've done it before and behind a mic, and so you're used to that quite a bit. But, the cons are you have to relearn a lot of things. You have to practice in a different way. You have to accept the reality that you're probably not ready to do it. There's a lot of guys out there that can do a sound like this when they read. And there's a lot of those guys that aren't getting any jobs too, because people just want each day our planet awakens with signs of opportunity. Or each day our planet awakens with signs of opportunity. As opposed to, hey, each day our planet awakens with signs of opportunity. That's not perfect, but it's more in the ballpark, that's for sure. And people are willing to hire you more on that than they are the big radio sound. Sometimes they want that. Okay, so here's what I learned in radio school, and then next week we'll get started on the 99 tips. What I learned in radio school at Brown Institute in Minneapolis, the best broadcasting school in the country. They're out of business now, but at the time they were. At least that's what they told us. We believed it, and they were pretty good. They were pretty good. So the first thing they taught us was to read out loud for a half hour a day. That was a requirement. We had to read out loud for a half hour a day, record it into a little tape recorder, bring the cassette tape in. They'd listen and make sure you did the job, and then you do it all over again the next day. The other thing that they would tell you is you're always talking to one person, not a group. It's not a big audience. You're talking to one person, your friend, basically, or a person. And mostly in the world of voiceover, that's true. You're just talking to a friend. You're having a conversation with a friend. That's the approach. You're not talking to a lot of times you hear podcasters on YouTube. It's like, hey guys, how you doing? Hey everybody. Hey you guys. Here's what we're going to do, you guys. And it's like, you're not talking to you guys, you're talking to one person, especially in a setting like that. There are times when you would want to, like for instance today, I happened to do a voiceover project where I was the voice of a PA announcer for an auditorium full of people at an awards banquet. My approach to that was a little different than, hey, each day our planet awakens with signs of opportunity. Quieter and more intimate and close and, conversational. On that one, I approached it as if I was in the auditorium with a microphone standing on the side of the stage introducing, our next speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a guy who's been in the business for 750 years. We're surprised that he's still alive. Let's bring him on now. It was an announcement to a group of people. Even though I was still only talking to one person, I imagined that I was talking to a group of people. So that's one thing that they taught us. Another thing they always taught us was to smile. But there was a couple of things they missed out on that one. One is smiling is an important thing to do sometimes, and you want to have that in your bag of tricks for sure. Because a lot of the commercials that you will read or video narration and that sort of stuff as a voice artist, joy is one of the emotions that you want to bring. You're happy. You've got some great news for them. You want to share this wonderful news with them, and you're happy about it. That makes sense. The problem is they teach you to smile, but they didn't give you the behind-the-scenes look at it. So, for instance, if I'm smiling like this, each day our planet awakens with signs of opportunity. All I did was, it was a surface smile. It's like, like you're smiling to somebody you don't really like. Hello. Hi. It's not a genuine smile. If you see somebody, oh my God, it's Rube. Dude. You might not even smile, but you could feel that smile on the inside. So when you smile, you're actually trying to create a reaction in your body of emotion. It's not just the surface up here. It's the feeling inside that you get. Okay, so then, they taught us diaphragmatic breathing, which they didn't really teach us. They went around and felt everybody's stomach as they told you to breathe a little deeper. They didn't really explain the what's behind that, and that's for another lesson that I'll make a note of hopefully here, and we'll cover that at some point. Most people don't understand what diaphragm. Breathe from your diaphragm, they tell you, but they can't tell you what it actually means or how or why it is or how it works or any of that stuff. I can, and I'll be glad to share it with you in one of these lessons. Those are most of the basics that they would teach you at like a Brown Institute, and most of those still apply today. Does the smile? Usually. Does the talking to just one person in a conversational way? Yeah. Does the diaphragmatic breathing, even though they couldn't teach it properly? Yeah, that would be one too. The reading out loud for practice every day for a half hour? Yeah, that would be one too. So anyway, today's lesson, continue reading out loud and try Don't try. Let it be a conversation. Read a line. If you didn't read it in conversational tone, read it again. Record yourself a little bit. Take your cell phone, record yourself reading a little bit, and you can get a nice free app from Shure Microphone Company called Motiv, or yeah, Motiv, and it records really nicely on an iPhone. You know, get that for free, and you record yourself, listen back to it, and just try to make it sound. Imagine that you're talking to a person when you're talking. Imagine the microphone is a person's ear. That's another technique. And so that would actually get you to quiet down quite a bit, because you'd be talking. You don't yell in somebody's ear. So anyway, so for this week, practice reading out loud for a half hour a day. Make it sound conversational and relaxed, like you're talking to a person. That's it. Next week, we're going to start in on those 99 tips to voiceover excellence. I wish you nothing but the best. By the time we're done with these lessons, you might not need it. You might be doing commercials on the Super Bowl. I kind of doubt it. You're probably going to need a little more than this, but this is going to get you moving in the right direction for free, and then you can decide whether you want to take lessons from somebody else, make a demo, buy some expensive equipment. Right now, just use your cell phone. You just need to record yourself so you can hear what you sound like. That is it. Hi, Jack Hicks, free voiceover lessons. Love you. See you next time.